The ambush Captain Bryn's claws trembled over the communications console as another explosion rocked the Harmony's light. The luxury liner groaned like a dying creature, its elegant corridors now filled with smoke and screaming passengers. "Send the distress call again," Bryn ordered, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through his four-chambered heart. His communications officer, a young Velen named Tess, nodded frantically. "Coalition forces, this is Harmony's Light, Registry Victor 79. We are under attack by Ravager pirates. Engines disabled. Life support failing. Please respond." Through the view screen, Bryn watched the Ravager ships circle like predators. Their hulls were patchwork metal, decorated with the skulls of a dozen different species. Everyone knew what the Ravagers did to their captives. Slavery was the kindest fate. Captain, we're receiving a response. Tess's ears perked up with hope. "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was cold and mechanical, translated from some guttural language. "Surrender your passengers and cargo. You have 10 minutes to comply." Bryn's blood ran cold. "Keep broadcasting our distress call. Someone will come." But would they come in time? The coalition was vast and powerful, spanning hundreds of worlds. But they were also slow. They followed protocols. They sent negotiators first, then peacekeepers, then, if absolutely necessary, military forces. The process could take hours. The Harmony's Light didn't have hours. "Captain," Tess shouted. "New contact!" Ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Bryn's hearts lifted. "Coalition forces?" Tess stared at her screen, her fur standing on end. "No, sir." The transponder says, "Terran Battlefleet." The bridge fell silent. Humans. Bryn had heard the stories like everyone in the coalition. Humanity had been discovered only 5 years ago, a species from a death world called Earth. They were bipedal, aggressive, and disturbingly resilient. While other species evolved on peaceful worlds with gentle climates, humans came from a planet that actively tried to kill them. They ate poison for pleasure. They kept predators as pets. They survived injuries that would kill any civilized being. And now, instead of the professional coalition peacekeepers, Bryn was getting humanity's military. "How many ships?" Bryn asked quietly. 12, Tess whispered. "Destroyer class. And 1 carrier." Through the view screen, Bryn watched the human fleet materialize from the dark. Their ships were blocky and brutal, covered in armor plating and weapon batteries. No elegant curves. No artistic design. Just pure, efficient violence. The Ravager ships seemed to hesitate. A new voice crackled over the communication channel. Female. Calm. Human. "Harmony's Light. This is Commodore Sarah Hayes of the Terran Battlefleet. We've received your distress call. Stand by for immediate assistance." "Commodore Hayes," Bryn managed to say. "We are grateful for your response, but there are Ravager forces." "We see them, Captain. Don't worry. We'll handle this. Handle it." There were at least 20 Ravager ships, each one bristling with weapons. The humans were outnumbered. Bryn watched as the Terran fleet moved into formation. They didn't slow down. They didn't broadcast surrender demands. They didn't even try to negotiate, they just opened fire. The space around Harmony's Light erupted in light and fury. Human railguns tore through Ravager shields like they were made of paper. Missiles streaked across the void, each one finding its target with terrifying precision. The Ravagers fought back, but their weapons seemed almost primitive against the human vessels. Bryn watched in horror and awe as a Terran destroyer took 3 direct hits to its armor and kept firing, completely undamaged. "What are their ships made of?" Tess breathed. Bryn didn't have an answer. The battle lasted 7 minutes. When it was over, 18 Ravager ships were destroyed. The remaining 2 tried to flee, their engines burning at maximum thrust. The human carrier launched a squadron of fighters, small, impossibly fast craft that chased the pirates down and eliminated them with cold efficiency. No mercy. No prisoners. Silence returned to the void, broken only by the debris field where the Ravager fleet had been. "Harmony's Light. This is Commodore Hayes. Threat neutralized. We're sending repair drones and medical teams to your location. You're safe now." Bryn collapsed into his command chair, his legs suddenly unable to support him. Around him, his crew sat in stunned silence. They had been saved. But as Bryn stared at the human warships hanging in space like sleeping predators, a single thought echoed through his mind. What have we brought into the galaxy? First contact with Deathworlders. The docking clamp connected with a metallic thunk that echoed through the damaged corridors of Harmony's light. Captain Bryn stood at the airlock, flanked by his remaining security officers. They had insisted on being present, though Bryn could see the fear in their eyes. Everyone had heard the stories about humans. They could break bones with their bare hands. They had forward-facing eyes like predators. They could go days without food or water. Some said they even enjoyed the taste of pain-inducing chemicals they called spices. The airlock hissed open. The first human through was massive, at least 2 meters tall, wearing armor that made him look even larger. His face was hidden behind a helmet, but Bryn could see his eyes through the visor. Forward-facing. Predator's eyes. Behind him came a smaller human, though still taller than Bryn. She removed her helmet, revealing short dark hair and those unsettling binocular eyes. Her lips curved into what Bryn's translator identified as a smile, a baring of teeth. Among prey species, showing teeth was a threat display. "Captain Bryn," the female human said. "I'm Commodore Sarah Hayes. This is Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb, head of our rescue team." Bryn managed a formal bow, keeping his eyes lowered. "Commodore, we are grateful for your intervention. The Coalition will probably file a complaint about our disproportionate response." Hayes interrupted, her smile widening. "Don't worry. We're used to it. How many casualties?" 17 wounded. 3 critical. No fatalities, thanks to your timely arrival. The big human, Webb, stepped forward, and Bryn's security officers instinctively moved back. Webb didn't seem to notice. He was scanning the corridor with some kind of device. "Commodore, we've got hull breaches on decks 4 through 7. Life support is failing in the aft sections. Recommend immediate evacuation of non-essential areas." Hayes nodded. "Get the medical teams to the wounded. Engineering crews, start patching those breaches. I want this ship stable in 30 minutes. Her team moved with frightening efficiency. They didn't ask permission. They didn't wait for Bryn's crew to guide them. They simply flowed through the ship like they owned it, already knowing exactly what needed to be done. "Commodore," Bryn said carefully, "your actions today were decisive. The Coalition would have sent negotiators first. Tried to arrange a ransom." "Captain Bryn," Hayes said, her voice suddenly cold. "Let me be very clear about something. Humanity doesn't negotiate with slavers. We don't pay ransoms to pirates. We don't debate the ethics of self-defense while innocent people die." She stepped closer, and Bryn forced himself not to retreat. "Your Coalition has protocols," Hayes continued. "Procedures, committees, that's fine for them. But humans learned a long time ago that some threats don't deserve negotiation. They deserve elimination, but the survivors. You could have taken prisoners." "Prisoners?" Hayes' eyes narrowed. "Captain, how many species have those ravagers enslaved? How many ships have they attacked? How many lives have they destroyed?" Bryn didn't have an answer. "We checked their ship logs," Hayes said quietly. "Those pirates had over 300 sentient beings in their cargo holds. 300 people who were going to be sold, tortured, or worse. So no, Captain, we don't take prisoners from slavers. We send messages." A commotion down the corridor interrupted them. One of Bryn's passengers, a wealthy Velen merchant named Corin, was arguing with a human medic. "I don't need your primitive medicine," Corin was shouting. "I'll wait for proper Coalition medical personnel." The human medic, a female with strange yellow hair, didn't seem bothered by the insults. She simply held up a scanner and spoke in a calm voice. "Sir, you have internal bleeding. Your left respiratory organ is collapsed. Without immediate treatment, you'll die in approximately 20 minutes. You're lying. You deathworlders just want an excuse to experiment on." Corin collapsed mid-sentence. What happened next made Bryn's blood freeze. The human medic moved with impossible speed. She caught Corin before he hit the ground, lowered him gently, and began working on him with her bare hands. Her fingers moved with surgical precision, accessing emergency equipment that Bryn hadn't even noticed she was carrying. "I need a biofoam injector and a respirator," she called out. Another human appeared instantly, carrying the requested equipment. The medic worked in silence, her face a mask of concentration. 30 seconds later, Corin was breathing again, his skin returning to its normal blue color. The medic stood up, wiped her hands on her uniform, and moved on to the next patient without a word. Bryn stared at the unconscious Corin, then at Commodore Hayes. "Your medic just saved his life," Bryn said quietly. "That's her job," Hayes replied simply. even after he insulted her. Called her primitive, Hayes shrugged. Sticks and stones, Captain. We're used to it. The galaxy thinks we're monsters because we fight. But they forget why we fight. She gestured down the corridor, where human crew members were helping injured passengers, repairing damaged systems, distributing emergency supplies. We fight so others don't have to. We kill so others can live. The Coalition can call us barbaric all they want, but when the monsters come, who do you think they call? Bryn watched a human engineer carefully lift a frightened Velen child out of a collapsed compartment. The engineer was speaking softly, making what Bryn's translator called soothing noises. The child clung to the human's armor, tiny claws digging in, and the engineer didn't even flinch. You're not what I expected, Bryn admitted. Hayes smiled again. That's strange. Tooth-bearing expression that somehow no longer seemed threatening. We get that a lot, Captain. Come on. Let's get your ship stabilized and your people safe. You can file your official report later. I'm sure the Coalition will have some very polite words about our excessive violence. And if they do? Hayes's smile turned predatory. Then they can send their negotiators the next time there's a Ravager attack. Let's see how well that works out. The galaxy's new reality, 3 days later, Captain Bryn stood in the Grand Council chamber of Coalition Station Prime. The circular room could hold representatives from 500 species, and today it seemed every single seat was filled. They were all here to discuss humanity. Bryn waited in the witness alcove watching the council members argue. His translator struggled to keep up with the dozen different languages being spoken simultaneously. Completely. Unacceptable use of force might violated 17 different peacekeeping protocols. Barbaric species that solves everything with violence, High Counselor Vexith. A Corthan with silver scales and 4 ceremonial horns raised one clawed hand for silence. The chamber quieted immediately. Captain Bryn, Vexith's voice echoed through the space. You witnessed the human intervention firsthand. Please describe what you saw. Bryn stepped forward, his legs steadier than they had been 3 days ago. He had spent those days thinking carefully about what he would say. Honored counselors, he began. The humans saved my ship. They saved 347 lives, including my own. That is not in question, Vexith replied. What concerns this council is the manner in which they did so. 20 Ravager vessels destroyed. Over 400 casualties. No attempt at negotiation. No prisoners taken. This is not how the Coalition operates. No, Bryn said quietly. It isn't. A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. But perhaps, Bryn continued, his voice growing stronger, that is precisely why the humans succeeded where we would have failed. The murmur turned to shocked silence. Explain yourself. Captain, Vexith said, his eyes narrowing. Bryn took a breath. The Coalition would have sent negotiators. We would have opened diplomatic channels with the Ravagers. We would have attempted to reach a peaceful resolution while my passengers suffered in terror, and my ship fell apart around us. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of beings from 100 different worlds. The Coalition is magnificent at preventing wars, but we are terrible at fighting them. We have become so committed to peace that we have forgotten how to deal with those who reject peace entirely. The Ravagers are sentient beings, protested Councilmember Thrin, a Velen like Bryn himself. They have rights under Coalition law. The Ravagers, Bryn said coldly, had 300 sentient beings locked in cargo holds. Children, elderly, families. They were going to sell them as slaves. Tell me, Councilmember Thrin, what rights do slavers deserve? Thrin fell silent, his ears flattening against his skull. The humans did what needed to be done, Bryn continued. They didn't do it with pleasure. They didn't do it recklessly. But they did it without hesitation, and because of that, everyone on my ship survived. Captain Bryn, Vexith said slowly, are you defending humanity's actions? I am saying, Bryn replied, that perhaps we should be grateful to have allies who are willing to do the things we cannot. The galaxy is not entirely peaceful, counselors. There are predators out there, and sometimes the only way to stop a predator, he paused, remembering Commodore Hayes's words, is with another predator. The chamber erupted in debate. Some voices shouted in agreement. Others cried out in horror. Vexith had to call for order 3 times before the council quieted. This council will take your testimony under advisement, Vexith said finally. You are dismissed, Captain. Bryn bowed and left the chamber. his heart's pounding. In the corridor outside, he found someone waiting for him. Commodore Sarah Hayes stood with her hands clasped behind her back, wearing a formal Terran dress uniform. She looked perfectly calm, despite the fact that the entire coalition was currently debating whether her species was too dangerous to remain in their alliance. "Commodore," Bryn said, surprised. "I didn't know you were on the station." "Officially, I'm not," Hayes replied with a slight smile. "I'm just here to observe. Heard you gave quite a speech in there." I told them the truth, and how did that go over? Bryn hesitated. "Half of them think I'm brave. The other half think I've been traumatized and can't think clearly." Hayes laughed, a short, sharp sound that made a passing Corthan scurry away nervously. "That sounds about right." "Don't worry, Captain. The Council will debate for a few more weeks, then issue a strongly worded statement about proportional response and diplomatic solutions. They'll make us promise to be more careful. We'll promise. Everyone will feel better. And the next time there's an attack," Hayes' smile faded. "The next time there's an attack, Captain, they'll call us again. Just like they always do. Because for all their speeches about peace and protocols, the Coalition knows the truth." "What truth?" "That sometimes," Hayes said quietly, "you need monsters to fight monsters. The galaxy just doesn't like to admit it." They stood in silence for a moment, watching Council members hurry past. "Deep and heated discussions, Captain," Hayes said finally. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. In the Council chamber, you defended us." "Why? You barely know us. Your entire culture sees us as dangerous. You could have agreed with them. Said we were too violent, too aggressive. It would have been the safe choice." Bryn thought about the human medic who had saved Corrin's life without hesitation, about the engineer who had gently rescued a terrified child, about the rescue teams who had worked tirelessly to save every single passenger, even those who had insulted them. "Because," he said slowly, "I've seen what you really are. Yes, you're warriors. Yes, you're capable of terrible violence, but you're also capable of terrible kindness. You fight so others don't have to. You kill so others can live. And that, Commodore, is not barbarism." He met her eyes, those predator's eyes that he no longer found frightening. "That's heroism." Hayes was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer than Bryn had ever heard it. "Thank you, Captain. That means more than you know." She extended her hand, a human gesture of respect that Bryn had learned about. He reached out and clasped it, feeling the strength in her grip, but also the careful gentleness. "Good luck with the Council," Bryn said. Hayes grinned. "They'll come around, eventually. And in the meantime, Captain, if you ever need help again, I'll know who to call." Hayes nodded and walked away. Her boots echoing on the station's polished floor, Bryn watched her go, then turned to look back at the Council chamber. Inside, hundreds of species were debating humanity's place in the galaxy. They were arguing about protocols and procedures, about peace and violence, about the proper way to handle threats. But Bryn knew the truth. The galaxy had changed the day humans joined the Coalition. They had brought with them something the peaceful species had forgotten: the willingness to stand between the innocent and the monsters, no matter the cost. The Coalition might not like humanity's methods. They might debate and complain and issue official reprimands. But when the next distress call came, when the next ship full of innocent beings was attacked by slavers or pirates or worse, the galaxy would call the deathworlders, and humanity would answer. Because that's what heroes do.